Okay, this is my 92 Jeep Wrangler. It's straight 6, 4.0 liter. And I'm gonna do a fender job here. Took a bit of a hit. I left it for a while because I happen to think Jeeps look better with a few bumps and bruises. But I changed the other side because it had excessive rust. So I put this new one on. I figured I'll also do the other side as well. Okay, so the driver's side is a lot more involved than the passenger side. Passenger side is pretty simple. If you could do the driver's side, then you could definitely do the passenger side. Okay, so if you're like me, I like to use YouTube videos not just as a how-to, but also just as kind of a dry run to get me orientated. So we're going to go over this one bolt at a time. If I miss a bolt, then you won't miss a bolt. If I make a mistake, then perhaps you won't make a mistake, and so we can learn together. I'm going to hit every bolt with some penetrating solvent, kind of just save myself some headache. And there'll be a few that are easier to get than others. And go back there. We're going to get that bolt for the coolant housing. We have several bolts here. So this bracket. Bolt there. Bolt there. A couple bolts up there. I'm not sure if it's coming through. Alright, we're going to hit our Jeep latch. And let's get the bolts from the Jeep latch from underneath. Anything I see coming through the fender, any sheet metal screws or any other hardware, I just hit it. Okay, so we're looking good. Most of this hardware is good and soaked. Okay, at any point we could remove these mud shields. I believe there's 2 of them. There's one up here in the front, and I believe there'll be one down here in the back underneath. Let's take a look. And there, I guess that's why they call it a dog's life, huh? I got get to work. The fenders are all nut certed. All the hardware is nut certed half-inch, so you don't have to look for backing nuts. But some of this stuff, you would have to find the backing nut underneath. That's where it gets a little tricky, so you're gonna have to just reach under here. And what I like to do is put a pair of vice grips on there. The power steering pump, and the nuts are 13mm. So whenever I can, if it's through, if the hardware is through fittings, I try and put standard across the board. Stainless steel standard was 7/16. Snap right off, which is no big deal because I'm going to be removing this. So, tell you what, I love this Trizol. Excellent penetrative. I mean, I don't know if this has ever been removed. They're coming right off. I let it sit for about 15-20 minutes. This is beautiful. Okay, so we pull all these clips out of this, holding this plastic sheeting, holding the electrical, and you just get underneath with one hand. You pinch. It's simple. I've seen this before. You pinch and you pull. There it is. You pinch and you pull. There's 2, and there's probably a 3rd down here. I'm going to remove the support bar just because it's switching it away and going out. Pinch in the back. 9/16 in the front. Okay, so when I said we'll make mistakes together, this is exactly what I'm talking about. I was removing one of the bolts for the coolant res, and the ratchet smacked this very brittle and very thin sensor hose. So that being said, I would recommend disconnecting it. So that's what I mean when I say we'll make mistakes together. So hopefully my mistake will be your windfall. Okay, that's one bolt for the coolant res, and the other one's down there along the brake lines, if you can see it. You gotta kind of go from behind. I want to show you how much forethought these people demonstrate. This is the bottom bracket. There's 2 brackets on the right hand side of the coolant reservoir, and it goes right underneath the brake lines. I mean, they just the brake lines, they just put them right over the bolt. So in order for me to get to that bolt, I have to remove the brake lines from their brackets in order to get that last bolt on the coolant reservoir. Their box. No, it's gonna remove the whole box. Everything right here. Bracket. It's gonna have to force things. Okay. Now we're gonna cover this up so we don't get anything in there. Okay, so we've gotten that final bracket off down there. I mean, as you can see, this is a brake line bracket, and that and the bracket for the reservoir were sharing the same bolt. So it's pretty silly, but okay. So this is the washer fluid res. We have Phillips here going from the washer res tray into the washer res. So we're going to remove that.
No wonder it sounds alike.
Okay, it's the coolant res. We can get that out now. That would remove the washer res. I'm removing the coolant reservoir bracket. Okay. Okay, so what's holding the computer in is 3 sheet metal screws. Where are they? Right there. And the heads are 8mm. There's 1, there's 2, and a 1/3 at the bottom. Okay, so the computer's loose now, and I'm just gonna let it hang. I just needed a couple inches, and that's what we're looking for. We're looking for 1, 2, 3, 4, right under here. It's right under the lip. There's 4. Okay, so I'm gonna hit the bottom 2 with some Trizol because we couldn't reach them before. Tell you what, it's 2016 and Trizol can't make a can that sprays at an angle. Guess good old WD to the rescue. Yeah, there's not a tremendous amount of room in here, so I like to break it with a 1/2 inch and then just go in there with the 3/8. Okay, so we got all the bolts out here on this back lip. Okay, so there's one cross member here, and there's another right there. Both these brackets, they're through bolted, so those aren't studs welded in with a nut. Alright, I'm finding this bolt on the cross members on the brackets. It's easier to do it from underneath. Have the ratchet underneath. Okay, so here at the front end, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Check the new paint thing in the yellow thing.
Okay, so the driver's side indicator, this one broke off in the accident. I ordered this one on eBay for just a couple $. So this is just 2 sheet metal screws here, and there's a plastic tab behind there. And to remove the light, it's got this kind of a cross configuration, so that just goes in and twists. Okay, so the indicator light came through here. That's the indicator light, and there's a bracket, and then we're going to feed this light out of that hole right there. And lastly, on the fender flares, we can leave them on. I got new ones anyway, but you could take them off after it's down. There is, right here, under here, there's a bracket. Keeps it, keeps these aligned. Okay, on this bracket that keeps the flaring aligned over here, I remember now, this is not a through bolt. It's a through bolt, but on the other side, it is not a nut. It's a circular compressed piece of nonsense. So just remove this clip. This bracket will actually come out with the fender. Once the fender is off, I'm recommending just cutting that bolt off and putting in a new through bolt with a nut in the back. And this is just a regular retaining clip, which pulls right out. Okay, so on the anti-lock brakes here, I really have zero to no play, but I for hell sure I'm not breaking these lines and then rebleeding the system, etc., etc., etc. If I have to do that, well, it's going to take this job up to a whole entire new level. So I'm going to try and remove this fender really without moving this too much. And I don't think we have to, because it's not like this fender has to be lifted out. It almost could just be pulled out as is. So let's give this a try together. Okay. Break this, I know it. Huh? Okay. I don't like the way this is just dangling here now, but she's good. Okay. Okay, so we got that fender off, but more importantly, we got that fender off without having to disconnect and completely remove the anti-lock brakes. I tied up the anti-lock brakes just to get some of that pressure off the steel lines. Some of these are a little rusty and I don't trust their integrity.
We'll dance all night at the moonlit rodeo as we listen to and watch the record spin.
Alright, so right away I noticed a couple things. So this does not have the tray for the air filter housing, the air box, and this is riveted in, so it means I'm going to have to drill these out and through bolt them here. Secondly, the studs for the anti-lock brakes are not here. But again, I could put in a bolt with a backing nut to hold them in place, and then they would just be resting on top of that, and then another nut. Okay, so they don't make the holes for you, but they actually just make a dimple to indicate where the holes go. I don't get that, but alright. 13/32 socket will fit on these nuts. G-pouch. Okay, so we're going to drill out these rivets. Okay, so we drilled that out. I'm going to brush it, paint it, and bolt it back on to the new fender. Okay, sand it and paint it up. Okay, she's more or less in her place. She's just sitting there. There's no bolts in it at all. This is just a matter of manipulating. Well, yep, right there is the hole. Okay, so we got her all bolted up under here, and yeah, it's really attractive. I like to see that. A lot of stainless hardware. Okay, so I put the airbox housing on after I installed the fender to give me more clearance putting it in. I'm just using these stainless steel machine screws. Like so. Okay, don't forget that the coolant res goes in before the windshield washer res, right? Don't forget the order of operations. We took this out, and don't forget that on the bottom mounting bracket of the coolant res, there was a bracket for the brake lines, and that they share the same hole. I'm just going to use the machine screws again on this, and you know, they have the holes that will take sheet metal screws. They'll bite into it. Behind it, they put, it's not a backing nut. It's just to add a little meat So you could use sheet metal screws and they'll dig, you know, self-tapping or whatnot. But I'm going to use machine screws that go through, and it'll work just fine. Okay. Alright, computer's back in place. Now we can put in the washer res. First put in the washer res bracket and then the washer res. Okay, so just so you don't make the same mistake, the washer res and the coolant res, on one of the holes they share the same bolt. So just remember, so you don't have to take it back apart like I'm going to right now and waste time.
Got lost, and so anyway, now I have to do the tender. I don't even have something. It's gonna take.
Okay, horn's hooked up. Okay, so that's about everything in place. Airbox, horn, anti-lock brakes, both the coolant and the windshield washer reservoir, the computer, the bracket for the airbox, and that's about everything in place. So that's her right now. That's about everything. Everything went in the same kind of order it came out. Thus far, so good. Let's move on to the flare. Okay, so this is the flare, one of the brand new flares I got, Fender flares, and it comes with this hardware, and it comes with like these plastic backings to these like sheet metal screws, and I'm not too thrilled about them, so because you're fighting them the whole way and I'm just not interested in them, so I'm just going to use machine screws and nuts and washers. I got well, stainless hardware on the flares. Okay, quick recommendation. I already tightened the flares up, and for the indicator here, there's holes in the indicator for the screw, which go through holes in the flare, which go into holes in the fender. And when it's already tightened up, they don't actually perfectly aligned, and it's kind of almost the most tedious part of the project. So I'd recommend doing all this while the flares are still very loose, which now I have to like, kind of loosen them up again and backtrack. Don't forget to put this bracket in, holding the two flares together. I'm just using hardware that I have. You know, I put a nut there. I don't mind the nut showing. It's stainless. I think it looks kind of cool. Remember that broken vacuum line? Well, here's a quick tip. You may not be able to go into an auto parts store and find this line readily available, but you sure can go in and find a piece of shrink wrap tubing in the electrical section, almost any auto parts store, and this is a great quick fix. You just slide that right on there. It's almost a perfect fit. Beautiful. You hit that with a Bic lighter and you're ready to go. You want to throw a larger gauge over it just to double it up, go right ahead. That could be a permanent fix as far as I'm concerned. There you go, fixed. Okay folks, there she is. That's the Fender. So from the beginning we saw what to do and what not to do, and it certainly wasn't the only way. We made mistakes together, and hopefully my mistakes will be your windfall. But there she is, she's done. So go ahead and get your hands dirty and tackle the project. God bless and good luck. Happy four-wheeling.